2 miles away from the surf and sand of Huntington Beach, 3 boys make a grim discovery.
It was a Thursday afternoon. Officer Tom Quick responded from the Huntington Beach Police Department regarding a woman that was found in a plowed farm field near Newland and Yorktown. The fire department responded and found a obviously deceased female face down in a ditch in that field. She was dressed as if she was going out. She had a leather jacket, black loafer shoes, purple capri pants that were pulled up but not secure. She had a flowered blouse that had been torn open.
All the clothing, there were no tags. There was no identifying anything. So the prime question is, who is she?
Anita was born on March 9th, 1942, in Augusta, Maine. She had 6 brothers and sisters. She was pretty rambunctious. Anita was a really good aunt. She was really nice to us and would play games with us.
Everybody enjoyed being around her, had fun with her.
Anita P2 is 26 in 1968, with a fun-loving and rebellious spirit. At one of her jobs, Anita makes some new friends with exciting plans to get out of their small town and head for California.
The investigators realize now that they're working with Jane Doe, a victim that is unidentified.
Investigators methodically search the area where the victim was found.
There was a lot of stuff collected. And one of those items was a cigarette butt that was very close to where it appeared the body dump had taken place.
The autopsy confirms that the victim had been viciously assaulted and raped.
She said she was doing well in California. She really liked the weather, and that she had taken a trip to Hollywood to see the stars' homes. And this was the only letter that we ever got from her. We started getting worried about Anita when we didn't receive any other letters after that. The address on the envelope was Whittier. So my uncle decided to contact the police and have them do a check on her at that address. When police got to the house was abandoned. The house looked like it was a commune that a lot of people lived in because they left a lot of stuff in the house, but nobody's there. And that's all we knew.
Unaware of Anita's family's search, police in California take an unusual step in hopes of identifying this Jane Doe.
They had an open morgue showing where anybody could come down there and look at her body.
And so she was kept for an unusually long time at the coroner's office with the body under refrigeration. No one was able to identify the body.
After 15 months, investigators run out of hope. The unnamed murder victim is unceremoniously buried, and the case goes as cold as the winter winds of Maine. Across the country in California, A new detective reopens the Jane Doe investigation.
I dug the case file out in late 2000 and began reviewing it. There wasn't a lot to go on at the time because there were no eyewitnesses to this. I was apprehensive and even somewhat worried that it would never get solved. This was the only cold case I worked where we didn't know who the victim was. Going through the evidence, we found the cigarette butt as well as her clothing. I asked the technician to see if there could be some DNA extracted to put into CODIS, which is a combined DNA index system. He was able to locate both male DNA from the cigarette butt and Jane Doe's DNA from her article of clothing. Both of those were put into the system, hoping to get a match. After a couple of days, I heard from the technician that there was no match.
By 2011, a new DNA technique emerges that gives investigators hope.
Familial searching and genetic genealogy are avenues for DNA investigation. Genetic genealogy is the use of DNA testing to assist in identifying blood relatives.
They begin by looking for Jane Doe's relatives.
You're looking for a first-degree relative, a father, a brother, or a son, and that's the way familial works.
So we found the common thread of a marriage in the family that produced 4 sons. They're all second cousins to the relative we found in the database. They're the right generation, and they're about the right age. This is it. We found them. The killer is one of these 4 brothers.
The test results show that the killer is almost certainly Larry, Danny, Michael, or Johnny Crisco. Further investigation places Johnny Crisco in the vicinity of the crime back in 1968.
And there was a history of him working at bars as bouncers. So we thought maybe he had worked at that bar as a bouncer and she went in to have a good time.
Having identified the killer, the team turns back to unraveling the mystery of Jane Doe.
We were always told that with all the testing over time, all the blood off of her blouse was consumed and it wasn't an option for DNA. But we want to know for sure.
Fortunately, the sample has been refrigerated for 33 years, and investigators submit the decades-old blouse for DNA testing. They find the names of a handful of individuals who could be related to Jane Doe. Back in Maine, Anita's sister Ann gets a phone call from Detective Deerking.
It would have been 9:30 on the East Coast. We made a round of calls and talked with Ann. She immediately told us that Anita was missing from 1968. And at that moment, it was like, oh my gosh, this looks like it's the real deal. Our victim was Anita. It was a surreal, exciting moment for everybody connected to the case.
52 years after the body of Jane Doe was found in Huntington Beach, Anita's family finally holds a memorial service in her honor.
I elected to travel with her remains to the memorial service, and it was extremely special to not only me, but to the family, and to see the closure and to meet these people that were 3,000 miles away.
I just want everybody to remember her as this fun-loving woman. She didn't have the chance to really live her life because it was taken from her. But she was finally found and brought back to us. And that's all we really wanted. She's here.